From enduro mountain bike wheels, wireless dropper posts, e-bikes and more, April has been yet another big month for off-road cycling tech. So today we are going to go through all of those highlights from brands such as RockShox, YT Industries, Santa Cruz and more. As always, we'll have all of these stories over on off.road.cc, so if you'd like a more in-depth look, head over there. But for now, let's go over those highlights. So first up, there is a brand new wheel set from Hunt, and that's the V3 Enduro Wide. And this whole new wheel set is set to be the strongest alloy wheel set that Hunt has built to date. And to make that happen, Hunt has actually removed material from the rims. So inside of the cavities, there are some special supports that aren't there anymore. Instead, the brand has managed to redesign the rim itself to make it stronger through a new V-shaped profile, especially at the rear. And I say especially at the rear because this wheel set boasts specific builds for the front and rear. So as we've seen with brands like Crank Brothers and maybe even Envy now, each wheel is built to kind of excel at its chosen purpose. So the front is built a little bit more for compliance, whereas the rear is built for stiffness and strength, so when you're slamming through horrible routes, it won't explode. Additionally, this wheel gets Hunt's H-Ratchet 40-tooth double hub with 8 degrees of engagement. If you're after a new enduro-specific wheel set, this will cost you £500 and it weighs a little over 2 kilos. Next up is probably some of the bigger news that we've seen over the month is that RockShox has released a brand new Reverb AXS. And let's face it, the old one got a little bit long in the tooth, had its own problems, but the brand has given it a complete redesign, and most notably in its battery location. And while it might look a bit weird, it now sits at the collar, much like the Fox Live Valve Neo dropper posts, but it sits at the very front of the collar, so it faces the handlebars, which definitely looks a bit odd, it's definitely divisive, but the whole idea of this is to remove or move the battery away from the rear wheel, so there have been instances where under full suspension compression, that the back wheel would tap the battery and launch it out into space. So hopefully that shouldn't happen with this dropper post. Not only is this dropper post about the battery location, but it also gets SRAM's active ride technology, which we found first introduced on its Explore Reverb AXS dropper post, and that's the gravel one. And what that does is that if you squish the saddle down a little bit, it gives you a bit of squish, so a bit of compliance and comfort that you'll find over rough terrain. We're told that this will be really useful when doing technical climbs on e-mountain bikes, but it just adds a little bit of comfort. So we've got one of these on for review, so keep your eyes out and we'll bring our verdict on that very soon. Other cool features is that this is now the longest dropper post on the market, coming in at a full 250 millimeters in travel. With a lot of bikes getting very low seat tubes, you know, this is the direction we're headed. It's very exciting to see. As for the price, RockShox has lowered it a little bit, so it comes in at £535. It comes in all of the lengths, up to 250mm in 25mm increments. Comes in all of the diameters as well, so if there will be a Reverb AXS dropper to suit your bike. So DJI's Avinox motor has been pretty big news since its release at Eurobike in 2024, and it's only been really seen on the Amflow mountain bike. But throughout April, there have been a few more bikes that come out from like Forbidden and Uno, but one of the more interesting ones perhaps is the Paprika 53 Model 25. Yes, this is a gravel bike with that absolutely massive 100+ Newton meters of torque, which sounds pretty crazy to me. So this bike's frame is built with some compliance in mind, which you would expect when you're hauling yourself using that full the power available, which is now 1,000 watts thanks to a new update. So that is an awful lot of speed that you're going to be getting very quickly with perhaps not very much effort. So to be able to make that more comfortable, controllable, this bike gets the RockShox Rudy fork with around 30 to 40mm of suspension travel, and it gets that Reverb AXS Explore dropper post, which adds that compliance we've just spoken about. Details on this bike are pretty slim. It's a Chinese brand. We don't have prices just yet, and we don't have a full-on release date, but we should get more to you very soon. On the subject of e-mountain bikes, YT Industries has brought the supernatural formula to what they're saying is an aggressive trail platform. So the supernatural formula is something we first saw introduced on the SN MX, which was an enduro-focused e-mountain bike, and YT Industries says that it's the best enduro bike the brand has ever built. So hopefully this kind of translates to this trail platform. And to make it a trail bike, it gets less suspension travel, so we've got 160mm at the front with 140 at the rear. But there are still a lot of similarities, so it uses the very same front triangle, but through a new seat stay, they've managed to, or the brand has managed to change the geometry a little bit around. So it gets the steepest seat tube yet. That sits at 78.6 degrees, and that's the steepest seat tube for a YT bike, might I add. And then the chainstay has been lengthened a little bit to sit at 447mm. That's to kind of make the bike more stable, especially when climbing. And we've got a 64.3 degree head tube angle. And of course, that is all tweakable via flip chip found at the shock yoke. Just like the SN MX, this bike runs on Fazoo's Ride 60 drive system, but it gets all the very latest stuff that we've seen from Fazoo. So that includes a larger 480 watt-hour battery. So that's 10% more capacity, so hopefully we'll be able to go 10% further. We've got a first ride review on this bike over on the YouTube channel, so if you'd like to learn a little bit more about it, head over there. We've also got details on the website, so whatever you like, if you want to watch it or read it, we've got it. As for prices, this bike starts at £6,500 and tops out at £9,000. And weights, we're told that the lightest bike in the range in a size small comes in at just over 19 kilos. And of course, this bike is a full 29-inch bike with no option to go for a mullet wheel setup if that's what you kind of like. April has been a big month for e-bikes, and next up we're going to talk about the Santa Cruz Bullit. The Bullit is a big travel, free ride, kind of bike park e-mountain bike. It's meant to replace the uplift, and to do that it gets Bosch's Performance Line CX motor with the very latest updates, and it's equipped with a 600 watt-hour battery, but you could boost that up to 850. That's with a Powermore range extender. Just like the Valor, the Bullit drops the VPP suspension linkage to help with packaging of the motor, and it gets a more traditional 4-bar linkage, and I think it looks rather sleek at that. Other things is that there are larger bearings across the frame in a bid to boost longevity, and each of those bearings is accessible via a 5mm Allen key, so it's super easy to service as well. Prices for this bike start at £6,800 and go up to a full 10 grand. We quickly became very fond of OneUp Components' carbon handlebar. We loved the compliance that it brought, but without sacrificing steering directness. And the brand has brought updates to its carbon handlebar, calling it the V2 carbon handlebar. The brand has built more compliance into this handlebar, claiming about 13 to 33% more, so it can be quite a lot, and that's depending on the rise and the width that you choose. Additionally, the brand has brought more options to what's now a range of carbon handlebars, so you can get it in a 760mm width with 20mm and 35mm risers, and an 800mm width in the same risers, but then there's an additional 50mm rise. Importantly, the design of this bar is tested to Category 5 EFBA Tri-Test certification, so it'll put up with the rowdiest of downhill racing, so it should be pretty damn strong. Moving away from e-mountain bikes and componentry, Canyon has brought the Spectral platform to an alloy frame, which in turn brings that price down. But it was a top performer in our test, and I think it won one of the best bikes of 2024. The aim of bringing the Spectral platform to an alloy frame is simplicity. So where the CF frame got all of the flip chips, got the keep it stable system and things like that, this alloy frame gets rid of all of those things. So it doesn't get KISS, it doesn't get flip chips, and it doesn't get the interchangeable rear wheel size. And again, that's all for simplicity. That does mean that upon checkout, you have to commit to a wheel size. So if you want 29 or a mullet wheel set, you have to do that upon checkout. Everything apart from the frame and those features we just talked about stays exactly the same as the CF model, which is really good stuff. So it's got the same geometry, it's got the same diameter seat post, which is larger than usual, and we've got 150mm suspension at the front with 145mm at the rear. With an alloy frame comes reduced pricing, so the range starts off at £2,149 and goes up to £3,749. Last but not least, we're going to talk Trickstuff, and this is a brand known for creating incredibly expensive mountain bike brakes, but the brand also kind of pushes boundaries in what's kind of capable or what's typical of a mountain bike brake. And that's very much present in its new Piccola HD Titanium brakes. So this brake set uses the very same reservoir and caliper as the Piccola HD Carbon, but as its name suggests, it uses a brand new titanium lever, and that lever's been designed in collaboration with a brand called Trump, and it's 3D printed titanium. So that makes the brake, or that's designed to make the brake even lighter than before, even lighter than carbon. And thanks to special support structures built into the lever, it's meant to be exactly as strong. We've got a set of these on test, so if you'd like to learn more, head over to off.road.cc and keep your eyes out for a full review coming very soon. If you are interested in a set of very expensive brakes, we're talking £1,100, which is quite the outlay. Anyway, those are the top highlights of off.road.cc's tech that we've seen throughout April. If you'd like to know more, head over to the website where you'll see these stories and even more. And if you'd like to see more of this kind of content, feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you very much.